What's your why? In this webcast series, we will interview influential people from many different backgrounds. Our goal is to discover their purpose, their passion, and why they chose the path they are on. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us this month for What's Your Why. I'm really honored and excited to have Ron deBruyne with us from Wombat Software. How are you, Ron?
I'm very well. Thanks, Brent.
Yeah, awesome. It's excited to have you. I'm excited to have you. We've been talking for a couple of years, and I've spent a lot of time looking at software companies over the years that relate to health and safety performance. And I never found one until Wombat that really solved all of the challenges that we have as a consulting firm, and also were client facing, which was fantastic. It's really been neat to watch your progress. But, maybe to start out this interview, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your path into safety, and then, after that, your path into starting Wombat.
Yeah, awesome, fantastic, and thanks for the invite to participate. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so my path into safety was back 25 years ago. I founded a company called Helm Operations, which was a, a maritime operations software company, and one of our modules was a safety and compliance module, and that was what really got me into safety initially and got me passionate. After I exited that company and retired, I decided that I was going to do it again and founded Wombat. And this time, the idea was to take kind of like drop all the mistakes that we had made in the past and do all the things that worked well, and try and build a safety software system that could work across multiple industries instead of just the maritime industry.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how much time did you take off between Helm and the start of Wombat?
Just a couple of years.
Couple
Yeah.
of years.
2 years. Yeah.
So what inspired you really to start all over again, to take this on, to invest your time, your money, and really focus specifically on safety?
Well, I was always really passionate about safety once I got into it. And, you ask what inspired me. Really, it takes me back to a story when we built the original safety module at Helm. At that time, I was asked to build a system for a client, and it was right after the Deepwater Horizon incident had happened. And, safety was a big focus for everybody in the maritime industry working in the Gulf. And I was asked to create a safety module. And so I said, the first thing I need to do is meet the crew. And so I was invited to come out and meet one of the vessels in Baton Rouge. I got on board and I met Captain Tiny. And it didn't take very long to figure out that the nickname Tiny was ironic because he was like 7 foot tall. He was like a full head higher than I was, and his hands were like giant tree stumps, and super nice guy, really real gentle giant. And one of the things he said to me was, in his deep Cajun drawl, he said, with all due respect, Mr. Ron, I didn't get on no boats to run no software. And he basically said to me that, if I'm going to use software, it has to have big, easy buttons for my fingers. And we really took that to heart. And he became the inspiration for everything I've done going forward after that. Was we were always building software for Tiny. And it's always been about the guys in the field.
So what I hear is the simpler, the better, the easier to use, the user experience is really critical. And that's something that Wombat focused on.
100%. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I think
Yeah.
this is timely because I find that we're spending a lot of time talking about artificial intelligence and how it's going to change not just safety in the workplace, but our lives in general. And I know I'm using AI daily for different types of tasks, but we're really seeing some awesome stuff. And a good example would be a friend talked recently about an incident where they utilize inward and outward facing cameras in their vehicles. And they had a worker who actually fell asleep at the wheel, and the inward facing camera was literally screaming at the worker saying, "Wake up, wake up,
Wow.
wake up." He ended up running off the road into a field, and immediately the company was notified of the incident by the system. And it's just amazing where things are going. And I think that in my years attending the ASSP conferences and walking the exhibition floor and talking to all of the different software providers, and online service providers for different types of safety platforms, whether it's incident reporting, whether it's contractor qualification, whatever it may be. I always I always felt like I didn't have a very good way to measure the differences and identify whether a solution was going to be effective or not. And I feel that things are starting to mature and the industry is starting to create the expectations, and companies like Wombat are responding to that. And I think that whether, like Captain Tiny, whether we like technology or not, it's here and it's here to
Yeah,
stay.
it is.
And it's changing the way we do business. And everybody needs to embrace and get comfortable with this idea, because doing things the old way, which is um, via yellow notepad and some of those different methods of even communication, email communication is starting to phase out.
Yeah.
I see online platforms that are real time and they're global. I see them becoming critical to business performance and real time analytics. So with that, why don't you tell everybody here a little bit about, why you said you didn't want to repeat the lessons learned from Helm when you built Wombat, but, how is Wombat different from other providers in the market, and what are you providing that you don't see the others providing?
Well, I think the thing that really separates us from other providers is really we have like a relentless pursuit of user experience design. And that really comes from that original experience with Captain Tiny, because let's face it, in the end, your safety system is driven by your workers. And I learned a really valuable lesson when I was on board that boat about how administrative friction gets in the way of data getting into your safety system. At one point, I was on the outer deck of the vessel, and I asked a deckhand, if you had to file a near miss report right now, how would you do that? And he just laughed at me and said, "Come with me." And we went inside the vessel. We went up 3 flights of stairs to the wheelhouse where Captain Tiny was. Behind him was like the big old, safety manual that he had to flip open and find a copy of the near miss report, and then take a photocopy of it, fill it in. Then he had to scan it to try and send it into the office. It was insane, the amount of administrative friction. And what I said to him was, so what you're telling me is you don't file near miss reports? He said, you got it. And so, for us, it was all about making software that would change the crew's viewpoint from a have to a want to. And that's really what we've done with Wombat, is make it as simple as possible. We actually use something we call the 12-second rule, which is when we design a new feature in the software, we'll bring somebody in who's never seen the system before, and we'll ask them to perform a task. And then every time they click, we start counting in our mind to 12. And if they get stuck for more than 12 seconds, that is a fail of the design. It's not a fail of the software. A user should be able to navigate the system without any training whatsoever and complete the tasks without having to go and find help.
I agree. If the users don't use the platform and the data is not being captured, then you're not benefiting from it. And what I really like about Wombat, and I spent at least a year plus as somewhat of an advisor, giving, my impression of some of the things you guys were developing.
Yeah.
And what I really like is whether it's us as a consulting firm or it's an internal safety team, that anybody can manage the process, and then it's very inclusive to everybody within the organization, so that you can enter observations, you can assign responsibility, you can track them. It's an amazing platform, and I know that you guys are in launch and you're starting to gain some momentum, and I think that the industry needs to know about you. I think that they need to listen to what you have to say. They need to look at your product and compare it to other things being used out there. That's the one thing I find, is that there's a lack of consistency with companies and what they're using. And I don't know that that's ever going to change as long as software continues to develop. But I know from my standpoint of all the different platforms, and I won't name the names, that Wombat is by far the most comprehensive platform for our needs as safety professionals specifically.
I
So
appreciate that. That's
yeah,
fantastic. Thank you.
yeah, and I know that ISS looks forward to partnering with Wombat as we continue to grow, and ideally integrating our clients in as well over time. So What's the best way for viewers to get a hold of you, to get a hold of Wombat, to schedule a demo, to find your product online? What do you recommend?
The easiest is to just Google the words Wombat safety software, or to just go to the web URL wombat.software, and from there you can sign up to see a video demo of the product, or reach out to one of our sales folks to get a demo and
That's awesome.
get into the details. Yeah.
I'll throw you a curveball because I didn't tell you I was going to ask this question, but like probably like me, we're in the latter halves of our careers, and we kind of think a little bit more about our legacy when we get to this point. And when you look at your legacy as as Wombat grows and eventually your team takes it over, what do you see, that being for you? What's your legacy? What do you want to accomplish?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked the question. Actually, I was having a discussion with somebody just the other day about this, and to me, it's really important that the work that I do has value and has an impact. And I likened the job of a safety professional to that of, have you ever seen a deer whistle? Are you familiar with what that is?
Yeah,
Yeah, you put it on
yeah,
your car and it makes
yeah,
supposedly a high pitched
yeah.
sound that humans can't hear, but the deer can hear. So hopefully they're going to jump out of the way. The only problem with a deer whistle is you only know if it doesn't work, right? You never know how many deer it's scared away. And the same thing goes for safety professionals like us. We will never know how many lives we saved, how many people we kept out of wheelchairs, and how many fingers and toes we kept intact. But to me, I know that the work that we do is having an impact, and that's where I get a lot of pleasure. And it's really the reason that I came out of retirement and decided to do it again.
And every now and then, as safety professionals, we do get reinforcement. Somebody says, "You made a difference. I really appreciate this
Yeah,
that you're doing," because you're right. If we're doing our jobs well, then we don't get any positive reinforcement, so to speak.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
the reason I laugh about the deer whistle is that for many years with our field consultants, the number one challenge and issue we had was deer strikes. And
really.
we have
Mhm.
argued that deer whistles make a difference. And it's funny how much people argue that they don't work.
Right, right. Yeah,
But,
yeah,
whether they do or don't work, doing something is better than doing nothing.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
Well, we
definitely.
really appreciate the time with you today, Ron. Everybody, check Ron out. Check out Wombat. Go to their website. Look them up on LinkedIn. They're good people. I've heavily vetted them over the last couple of years, and I think it'd be well worth your time to look into Wombat and see how Wombat can benefit you.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Brent. Really
Great.
appreciate it.
See y'all again next month.
Take care.